So related to our topic today, we're looking at trauma and autoimmune disease.
Mhm.
What have you observed in your practice? You've had this, I just really appreciate the breadth of your training in
Mhm.
so many different disciplines of Chinese medicine, Ayurveda, energy work, body work.
Mhm.
What have you observed in terms of insights into folks who've been through some physical trauma,
Mhm.
emotional trauma, and who may at some point, when they're by the time they come to you,
Mhm.
they've been diagnosed with some kind of autoimmune condition, and you're
Mhm.
scanning, getting into there. What have you observed
Mhm.
as the relationship between trauma and autoimmune disease?
Okay. I can't be absolute
Sure,
about
just your
direct
sense.
links, but overall, I can definitely say that the autoimmune disease is linked to some kind of developmental trauma or some kind of um, negative emotional experience that was repeated.
Oh, okay. Okay, so it could be like a childhood developmental thing.
A lot of times.
That's often the case.
Yeah, and sometimes it could be more of an acute thing, such as sexual abuse or something like that. But it's a reaction in the body that wasn't dealt with, or it didn't have the space or time or energy to be released and to cycle through. So the system is reacting to itself.
Okay.
So if you think of like a negative, a sliver going in.
Sure.
So this is the negative stimulus.
Right.
Sliver going in, and then the body creates this protection around it, right? Like it gets kind of hard around it. So the body naturally does is it guards against any painful experience.
Right.
And it'll build those walls of protection around it if it doesn't have enough love or presence or
a context where it can
context where it can cycle through or heal or resolve itself.
Okay.
And so it's basically unresolved emotion or reaction from the nervous system.
Okay. Well, that's very interesting because I remember a case where a new patient came in with MS, and looking at her history, she was a flight attendant, and during the flight, they hit very sudden, severe turbulence. She was literally bounced around the cabin, like just pretty significant, physical trauma. And took her a few months to recover. And then it happened again. And that's when she, like immediately after that, within days after the second time she was bounced around in the turbulence, she wasn't strapped in or anything. That's when she started showing the signs of the numbness, weakness, all the signs of MS. And then that just got progressively worse. So what was happening energetically in that patient who had this physical trauma, happened twice, so it was a repeated thing, and then developed an autoimmune condition? What would be your guess as to what was happening there?
I would guess that her body took that as a traumatic thing where it got stuck in a fear response.
Okay.
And because it was never met with enough presence or enough care, enough attention for the rest of the body and the being to realize that it's safe. It's continuously firing that fight or flight activation in the nervous system, which could be hypoarousal or hyperarousal.
Okay.
Yeah.
So in sympathetic dominance, I guess that would be like that. So what would be, maybe just define some terms for folks, hypo and hyperarousal. How would you explain that?
Yeah. Hyperarousal would be more of the fight or flight, nervous, fear, stressed out, that kind of thing.
Yes.
And then hypoarousal is it's an understimulation of the nervous system where people might seem more placid or there isn't much energy moving. It's kind of a freeze state.
Oh, okay. That's the freeze. Okay, so fight or flight on one side, and then freeze on the other side, kind of an under-responsive. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. So is there an example you give from your own practice of an autoimmune patient who you observe certain things and how that went?
Yeah. I'm thinking of a couple really quickly.
Yeah, sure.
So I was telling you earlier that with the thyroid issues, I do tend to find when I do a scan over people's necks that they have a blocked throat chakra.
Oh,
and
okay.
Then I start asking questions around, did you feel safe expressing yourself,
Right.
or were you recognized? Like, was it okay? Did you ever feel seen or heard in your family, or what was your relationship to your voice in your family? And a lot of times they actually felt very stifled in their lives. So that part of the nervous system actually gets shut down when natural expression was oppressed.
Okay. Just tell us a little bit about the throat chakra for folks who are not aware of the chakra system.
Yep. So the throat chakra basically is, it's a vortex of energy, but it contains a certain patterns of consciousness. And the throat is going to be connected to the thyroid gland.
Right.
And it has to do with self-expression. So it's going to be self-expression when it's healthy.
Right.
And uninhibited like expression of the self, the true self.
Okay. So that's the light side.
Yeah.
And then what would the shadow side of that be? Like if it's out of balance?
That would be someone that has had to mask themselves a lot, or mask their self-expression.
To get by or feel safe, or
Yeah, usually to avoid judgment or to avoid punishment, or Yep. Or just it might have gone dormant just because it wasn't, that person wasn't seen for so long that they were like, well, why do I put myself out there if I'm not being met? So
like they tried to express themselves and didn't go well, and so they shut down.
Yeah, that's pretty much all childhood stuff.
Yeah.
Almost everything. Like, I would say that most of the trauma that I experience is rooted in a childhood trauma. So it might have been reactivated more recently, but most stems from the childhood.
So there may have been like an underlying childhood pattern that was set. That may have even been latent for a while until there was an adult experience trigger that may have. So there was like a background weakness or a background tendency or a propensity towards problems, say, in this area.
Yeah.
And then something happens in adulthood that triggers something in that background, and then there's a trigger that makes it manifest as a problem.
Yep.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay. Wow. And any other patients come to mind, clients come to mind where there was an autoimmune something trauma connection?
Yep. I've noticed that with a lot of people with rheumatoid arthritis or more arthritic conditions, tend to have been in abusive relationships or relationships with narcissists. Or something that really oppresses expression of rage or anger has been a pattern that I see. I wouldn't say that that's a rigid pattern.
Sure.
But it's something that I've noticed a lot because there's all this emotion that, especially in a really traumatic situation, if it's an abusive parent or an abusive spouse, that person is constantly being injured, and so there's this reactivity, but it wasn't safe for them to express rage or anger. And so that had to get buried and repressed. So the body is so intelligent in its ability to cover all of that stuff up when it's like, if I express that, I'm going to get hurt. So I'm going to repress it to a point where I don't even know I am angry. I don't even know I was upset about that. Usually when I ask them, I'm like, I usually notice kind of like a placid or kind of wafy character type, where it's like a little bit, it's not very robust a lot of the time,
So they're sort of shut down, and in the exterior, they're sort of like the wallflower, or just trying to be invisible, maybe, or not come out strongly or in a vital way.
Yep.
And then what's behind that? Once you get into their field and their history, you find some of that.